All right. So talking about my background also, so I missed this actually. I'm sorry. So I did my engineering from BITS Pilani in 2021 in electrical and electronics engineering. And after that, I worked for 2 years. I mean, so first I worked for a US based trading firm. So I traded derivatives for US markets. And then eventually I went into product management and worked for a insurtech unicorn as a in their product team, right? So that has been about my professional background and credentials. My percentile Gaurav is 99.69 in CAT, 99.99 in Snap, and 99.1 in ZAC, right? All right. Fine, fine. I think we'll briefly start about things. I'll just set up the context for you guys, right? So that you guys understand why this session is important and how it can help you and how you can improve yourself, right? So we were done with questions for now, at least, right? We'll surely take up questions in between the sessions as well. I mean, whenever you have some doubts, you can surely put it up. But then I think for starters, we have enough questions, right? So to start with, 8th today already, right? And we know that we don't have a lot of time. The exams on 26th this year, and you just have 18 months, precisely 17 days. Sorry, 18 days, precisely 17 now, right? And I think all of you might have got your centers, got your allotted time slots, right? And when these things come, the panic usually increases. So now you know how far you have to travel during the day, and when you have to actually travel and go to the center, right? So, to be starting with the time management aspect of things and how you can manage time, I think we have to divide it into three particular segments where we essentially have to manage time, right? Before that, one thing you need to very well realize is कि यार time manage perfectly तो कोई नहीं कर पाता, ठीक है? You see those sticky notes out there. मैं भी struggle करता हूँ time manage करने में still, but I think the more you do, the better you get at it, right? So I think we will actually talk about how you get better at it, not how you get the best out of it, right? So basically, our time management has three aspects, right? Now, first is managing time in your, day-to-day study routine as to, how you should devote time to each particular section, and then how you can improve each particular section by devoting a certain amount of time to it, right? Secondly, it's about the mocks that you give from now till the exam, 18 days, how many mocks do you have to give? And even in those mocks, how to actually manage your time and then how to get good at the time that you spend during that particular mock session. Then third thing is, in that particular D-day, on that day, how do you specifically have to, depending on the time slot that you have, how can you basically manage your time to get the best out of your particular time slot, right? So we'll break it down into three particular segments, and then we can actually, come up with whatever might be the best for you. All right. Now, starting with your day-to-day study routine as to how you should follow what you should study and how you should allocate time to each bucket as such. Uh, Now, depending on that, what I have to say is every person has. So, in the last session, we talked about every person having one particular section as their strength or weakness, right? So, now me looking at these 70 days, I'll tell you what I did last year, and then you see if that fits best for you. Otherwise, we'll have something new to talk about, right? So, what I essentially did was my best section was quants, right? And I knew that quant was something which is essentially going to be holding my scores and taking them up till the very end, right? So I knew that in the last 18 days, I do not have to push a lot on quants because my quants is already very, very good, right? On the DILR aspect of things, I knew that with 95% confidence, I can tell my DILR was very good. And in most of the mocks, I scored very, very good in DILR. But when it actually came to VRC, so my VRC scores were dicey sometimes. So then I knew that, in these last 3 weeks, I have to devote some amount of time to VRC. And then that will actually push up my score in the actual final exam in the mocks as well, right? So what I used to do was, so I was working along with my preparation, right? So I didn't have a lot of time during the day to be actually doing a lot of preparation. So what I did was I initially woke up at like, so my time slot was 8:30. So my exam was at 8:30 to 10:30. So what I used to do was I used to wake up at like around 7 in the morning. And then after doing my daily dignitaries, I used to sit for my mock at around 8:15 every day, right? Now, that is something which essentially everyone needs to do. I mean, whenever your time slot is, whatever your time slot is, you essentially need to be very well acquainted with the time slot and, very well okay with the fact of giving an exam at that particular time slot, right? So what I did was I actually sat to give the mock at 8:15 every single day or alternate days, right? So I did not actually start my preparation long back. So I didn't have a lot of time to give mocks. I actually started in October. So I actually had to push a lot on giving a lot of mocks during the last month as well. So I used to give a mock at 8:15 and till 10:15 I used to give one mock, right? And after that entire mock was complete, I used to work for 2, 3 hours and then I used to take time 2, 3 hours to analyze that entire mock, right? Now, after giving a mock and analyzing the mock, 4, 5 hours of my day were already over, right? And even if no matter how good you are, I think you can't study for more than 10 hours every single day consistently. So, and that's not something which is very well advisable also. So, one thing that I can tell you is in the last 1 month, try to optimize your time rather than overburdening yourself, right? Do not spend a lot of time studying every single day because what's going to happen is till the day of your exam, will actually be so overburdened that you won't even feel like studying or solving anything. So what you essentially need to do is you need to optimize, right? So let's say for 2, 3 days, you have to actually do a lot of practice, study a lot, right? And then you can take a break of a day where you have to just study for like 3, 4 hours. Then again, you start with that 3 day cycle, 1 day cycle, and you have to do it over and over again so that your mind gets time to revamped and refreshed. And then you can again start up with that cycle, right? And what I would suggest is before the day of exam, I think 1 or 2 days before, don't study a lot. I mean, put like 3, 4 hours every single day and just get refreshed with all the concepts, revise all the formulas, see through all the sets that you've done and get a hang of it, not solve a lot of things a day or two before the cat examination, right? Now talking about how you should devote your time to every section, right? So now what I used to do apart from my mock and analysis was, let's say I used to have 4 hours to study entire QA, DILR, and VRC. So what I used to do was I used to devote 50% of my time to my weakest section. So let's say VRC was my weakest section back then. I used to devote a minimum of 1.5 to 2 hours to VRC every single day, right? Now, what I used to do in VRC, so I'll tell you what you can do for your weakest section every single day. So for VRC, what you should essentially do is solve 4 to 5 RCs every single day in that particular time frame that you study VRC on, right? And when I'm talking about studying VRC and solving RCs, you have to actually solve them very, very consistently, right? You have to solve those RCs very, very consistently, and you have to understand how you're solving them and understand what is your thought process behind doing every single thing. Guys, you need to be very, very specific about, that these 3 weeks are something that are going to be forming your entire CAT D-Day, right? So anything that you do in these 3 weeks should not be careless at all. Even if you're solving every single RC, you need to be having that viewpoint that this RC is coming in CAT final D-Day, and you're actually solving it like that as well, right? Apart from that, what I used to do was solve around 10 to 15 odd one out parajumbles, parasummary, combined 10, 15 questions and then used to analyze where I was wrong, what the correct methodology was, and things like that. Now, this is for VRC. Then what I used to do was spend like around 1 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes into DILR. So in DILR, there's just one thing that you need to do across your time, right? Which is solving as many sets as you can, right? So that I broke that down into two particular segments. One thing was what I did was essentially try to solve the previous sets, which I felt were very, very tough. So one habit that I made within myself was revising every tough set that I came across in the past. Secondly, what I used to do was solve 2, 3 new sets every single day, apart from my mocks, right? So that is something you can do. Now, doing these things can be done in the form of sectional tests as well, which would be timed and on the platform, on iQuanta platform. Or what you can do is you can essentially solve them using some source or some material that iQuanta might have given to you, right? Now, talking about quants, if quants is your weakest portion, now quants again is divided into different topics, right? One thing that I would very well advise you to do is find your weakest topic. Let's say geometry is your weakest topic or number system is your weakest topic. Try to devote like 30% of your time every day solving number system for at least a week, right? Until it gets to that basic level, solve number system, get good at least get decent at it, and then you can probably solve mixed questions, right? Now, doing this section wise every single day, having that time limit, what it gives you is discipline, right? That is not an examination of difficulty, guys. I'm telling you, I've given very, very tough examinations than CAT. I mean, I've given JE, which is like far, far more tougher than CAT. I think CAT is just an examination of discipline and time management. If you're able to manage your time before CAT, if you're able to manage your time within sections, with sections, I think you'll be very well doing and, very well, I mean, your performance would increase by a huge margin, is what I can guarantee you, right? Now, talking about the second aspect is the sectional wise time management, right? Now, I'll again tell you my strategy, and then you put up your doubts within the chat box, and then we can come up with a differentiated strategy if you want to and if you feel like, right? Now, I'll start with VRC again. All right, Akshat is here as well. So I'll just start and tell about VRC, and then Akshat can give a brief introduction about himself. Akshat, are you there?
Yes, Aman, I'm
So
here. Just give me a second. I turn on the video.
sure, Akshat. Yeah, so Akshat is my batchmate, guys. We are essentially in the same section. So that was not a very useful piece of information, but all right. So yeah. So VRC, talking about VRC. So in those 40 minutes now, essentially what you need to understand is in an examination like that, you do not have a lot of privilege of selecting which section you want to do, right? You never get that chance of selecting if you want to do VRC first, if you want to do DILR first, or fonts first, right? There is a specific order which is VRC, DILR, and font, and you need to essentially stick to that, right? So now when you essentially have this particular order which is fixed, what you need to understand is your strategy should also be restricted to that particular thing only. You should have a strategy which is restricted to the fact that VRC is the first section that you're going to solve and not the other way around, right? Now, in an examination like that, you can actually have a differentiated strategy as to which section you want to start first and how you can manage your time regarding that. But in CAT, the restriction is there, which makes it even difficult for you, right? Easy for you and difficult for you at the same time. Easy in the way that you don't have to have a lot of strategization around that, but difficult is the again the part that you don't have to do a lot of strategization around that. So no matter whatever you do, it is going to be tough for you, right? If you don't manage your time well. So in VRC, what I essentially did was, let's say we had 40 minutes to solve, 4 to 5 RCs, and then around 10 questions of para jumbles, odd one out, para summaries, and fill-ups, right? So what I essentially did was, so I devoted my initial 15, 16 minutes solving the first two RCs, right? Now, initial 2 minutes in VRC needs to be there for skimming, where you decide which out of the 4 or 5 RCs you need to do first. So what I essentially did was, in the 1 2 minutes, I used to, let's say, come up with the order that first I'll solve third RCs, fourth RC, second RC, then first RC, right? Now, when I actually have this order, I know that I have to actually solve the third and fourth RC and the first, right? So what I used to do was I used to solve the third and fourth RC till the 15th or 16th minute mark, right? Now, when I actually have solved two RCs till the end of 16th minute, I do have some confidence in myself that I've done the easiest of the RCs that I felt. And now I have some amount of marks marked for myself, scored for myself, right? Now, when I talk about solving them, it is not very, very important that you solve all the questions that are there in the RCs, but your accuracy should be very, very high in this, right? So let's say there are 10 questions in two RCs, let's suppose, or let's say eight of them. Even if you solve six of them, that's fine. You don't have to solve all eight of them. But the accuracy in those six of them should be very, very high, at least 85, 90%, right? Now, after those 16-minute mark, I used to jump straight up to the VA part, right? And in the next 10 to 12 minutes, I tried stretching the entire VA part. So till the 28th minute mark or the 30th minute mark, if the VA was essentially tough, my strategy was to solve the entire VA thing till the 30th minute mark and not come back to V again. So my strategy was never to come back to V again, but to finish it in one stance. Because once I go back to RCs, I would not have time to come back to VA because I had two RCs to solve, right? Now, till the 30th, 28th to 30th minutes mark, I had two RCs solved, the entire VA solved, right? Now, I had two more RCs in hand, which I had to solve. So what I used to do was go back and try to essentially just solve one RC, right? Now, if you go back and try to solve both the RCs, you'll never be able to do it because the time is not that much. You don't have that privilege of time to solve both the RCs and then you can move forward with that. So try to not have that time pressure within themselves, within yourselves that, I have to solve both the RCs or essentially I have to solve everything in VRC because that's normal English. That doesn't work like that. That RCs are essentially linguistically very heavy, some of them, right? So if you try to target solving all four of them, it can actually get tough for you. What you should be having in mind is that I have to essentially solve one RC totally fine, right? Now, if you do that in, let's say, 6, 7 minutes or sort, if it's very easy RC and if you solve it in 6, 7 minutes, you'll essentially have 3 minutes. And, if you can look at the questions of the last RCs in the next 3 minutes and solve them, that's good. Otherwise, what I would recommend you is you would have done some marking in some questions, right? Which you had to reference later on. So you can essentially, in the last 3, 4, 5 minutes, you can go back to those questions which you had marked to solve later, and then particularly solve them so that it covers the entire gamut of the paper for you. So this was VRC from my side. Now I think Akshat has his camera on, so I would like him to introduce himself, and then we can probably continue further. Yeah, Akshat, over to you.
Hi guys. As Aman mentioned, I am a batchmate of his. We are in the same section, same course, Human Resource Management at XLRI. And as the video template must have told you that I got a 99 in CAT and SAT both, just like Aman. Aman also has a 99.99 in SNAP. So if any one of you is preparing to go for SNAP, Aman would be the best person to go for. I think Aman, you got the number 1 rank, right? In SNAP? Or number 2? 5. All India 5 rank. Okay. So guys, here right now, let's just focus on CAT because CAT is the exam that is coming next and is probably the most important one because it covers a variety of exams, variety of colleges, a lot of colleges. This year, even IFT has come under the ambit of CAT. So it's really important that you prepare well for CAT and score good in it. And even if you don't, there's no need to worry because there are a lot of exams like it happened for us. I did not get a good enough percentile to get a call from the top black eye, and Aman just missed ABC call by a whisker. So yeah, let's focus on CAT. Aman has told you about VRC. Let me shift the focus to DILR. So how to go about DILR? How do you manage time in the DILR section? Because DILR is literally the make or break section. Even if you do not fare well in VARC, you know that at least you have done something, and you might not be very much sure that you have done it right or wrong, but at least you have some hope. But in DILR, when you're marking the answer, you know that whether you are marking it right or wrong, or whether you have done it right or wrong. So it is very important that you manage time well in DILR section because time plays the biggest role in DILR section. So how I approached DILR was the first 3 to 4 minutes I spent going through all the DILR sets, and I chose those which I had done in the past, which I had some experience of doing, and I attempted those first. And after doing that, I moved on to the sets which I did not have much familiarity with. And one more myth that needs to be broken is that you have to attempt all the questions of a set. No, that is not true. You do not have to attempt all the questions of a set. Do not waste time in attempting all the questions of a set. Say there are 4 questions or say 5 questions in a DLR set. If you are done with 3 questions and you think that the other two questions will take a lot of time, just leave them for now. Just leave them for now. If they're taking close to 5 minutes for one question, leave them for now. Attempt it later. Try some other sets which might be easier. So that is how you can save time in DLR. Do not solve all the questions of DLR if you think that some are way more difficult, right? This is for DLR. And yeah, coming to quant, I think,
I'll take up.
yeah, Aman?
I'll take up quants.
Yeah, Aman, the quant code.
Yes, yes. So I don't know. I don't know. I just get too excited when I hear quant anyway. So I mean, yeah. So, quants is section essentially, guys, which I think a lot of us struggle with, right? And I think quant is a section which essentially does not require a lot of time management, but it does, right? So I'll tell you why it does not, because it doesn't involve a lot of selection of sorts. So in VRC, you have to select a lot of RCs and then go forward with that. So it takes 2, 3 minutes of yours to do that. In DILR also you have to do that, but essentially in quant you don't have to do that. But in quant, there is another thing that requires time management is it involves phase solving, right? So you initially will solve it in round one, then you'll solve it in round two, then you'll solve it in round three, right? Now, if someone of you is confused about what round one, two, or three is, I mean, you really need to buckle up, right? Because so I'll tell you what round one, two, three is, and then essentially you'll get a hang of it, right? So round one is essentially, let's say you have a target of out of 22 questions, you have a target of solving, let's say total of 18 questions. So in round one, you essentially should be done with 10 questions minimum, right? So I'm just considering a moderate difficulty right here. So if the paper is of moderate normal difficulty, you should be essentially solving around 9 to 10 questions, which is around 45-50% of your paper in the round one, right? In round two, you should essentially be covering 30-35% of your paper. And in round three, 10-15% of the paper that's left that are you aiming to solve, right? Now, what my strategy was, so In quants, you have to be very, very selective about what you want to do. I'll tell you the major difference. So in DILR, you read one set, you essentially solve 4 or 5 questions. In VRC, you read one RC, you solve 5 questions. In quants, every section is different in itself, right? In quants, if you're stuck with one question, it is going to be very, very tough for you because you're going to be wasting a lot of time on that question. And that is going to be hurting your prospects for all the questions that's going to come ahead because no question is linked with the other one, right? So what I used to do was, let's say I see a question, right? And if I'm able to figure out in the next 10 to 15 seconds if that question is easy, medium, or hard, and if I feel it's easy in the first round, I start attempting it. If not, I used to just mark and then move on, right? Same for all the 22 questions. So what I used to make sure was that in the initial 10 to 15 minutes, I am done with my entire round one. So if you could, have a snapshot of me solving the entire quant, that would look like, I opened the question, I see it for 10 seconds. I either press mark is next or I start solving it. If I start solving it and if I get it in next 1.52 minutes maximum, I'll keep doing it. And if I have no other plans of doing it in the next 2 minutes as well, I'll stop doing it right there, right? Do not, I repeat, do not attach. That's the same for DILR and VRC as well. Do not attach your ego to any particular set or question, right? Your question, your attempt is way more important than that particular, ego that's right there, right? So leave that
Guys,
question
that's
right
the
there.
that's the that's the mistake which I made in my first CAT attempt in way back in 2019.
Yeah,
So at that time, I used to take every question to my ego. And in quant section, I think I got the lowest percentile out of all the three, something around 91, something I got.
yeah,
So the major difference that I made in my uh, in the subsequent CAT attempts was that I did not take the questions to my ego. I first went through all the questions. I made sure that I picked the easiest one first, and then I moved on to the a notch higher, then a notch higher. Do it in
yeah,
iterations, two, three iterations, right? First, solve all the easy questions. Like suppose you have 22 questions in quant or 24 this year, something like that. So first, in the first iteration, make sure that you see at least all the 22, 24 questions and you solve the easiest ones. And in the second iteration, solve the ones which are a little notch higher in difficulty.
yes. And the mistakes that people usually make, and I think that will answer a lot of questions for a lot of people in quants is mistake number one is they misjudge the question, right? So initially, when they read the question, they feel that the question is very, very easy. But as they go ahead, they find out that the question is not actually very easy, and then they end up, keep solving that. So if in the midway you realize that the question is difficult, understand that the question is better than how you are, and leave the question right there, right? Understand if you're not able to fight an opponent, there's no way wasting your energy fighting that opponent if there are 10 more opponents right there, right? So leave it right there. If you're not able to do it, max mark that option, mark that question for later, and then move ahead, right? This is mistake number one. Mistake number two is having a lot of time pressure in solving. Let's say that you think out of 22, I have to solve 18, right? Now, if I have that thing already in mind, what happens is sometimes the level of difficulty of the paper is higher than what we think it is, right? And let's say if we think that we have to solve 18 questions minimum, the problem that comes up is in the initial 5 questions, you will take, let's say, 15 minutes. And then you'll think, oh my God, I've already taken 3 minutes per question, and this is just my first iteration, right? So you need to actually recalibrate your strategy according to the level of difficulty. If you feel that the level of difficulty is tough, and irrespective of level of difficulty, get in habit of skipping the questions very, very fast. In the first iteration, all the people who are doing good in quants in their cat in the mocks, you will see that they skip questions very, very fast in the first iterations at least. So, if you would ask me, my VRC and DILR in CAT 2022, at least I felt went bad in the paper. During the paper, I thought after scores, I was like, okay, I'm satisfied. But during the paper, I thought that my VRC and DILR went very, very bad, right? So, my strategy for quants paper was that, I have to finish my first iteration in 10 minutes, right? And I gave that target to myself. If the questions might have been more difficult, I would have left them. I would have not solved 10 maybe. But what I essentially did was I solved, skip. So I did that over and over and over again, right? And my initial first round was over in 10 to 12 minutes, which is very, very quick, right? And why I was able to do that? Because I totally left the tough questions. I did not even touch the questions which I thought would take 3, 4 minutes to solve. That is one thing. Secondly, what you need to essentially do is leave the time pressure because that hampers your accuracy as well. So if you constantly have that thing in mind that, I have to solve 15 more questions in the next 35 minutes, you'll always be thinking of that particular aspect and then hamper the accuracy in that particular question, right? So both the things, you do not have to hastily solve any question just because, you have to solve a lot of questions because that will impact your accuracy. And you have to not impart a lot of time to a particular question because, that will leave less time for you to solve the other questions. And that will actually put up a lot of time pressure within yourselves, right? So वो थोड़ा सा in the next 4 or 5 mocks that you give before exam, I think I will suggest you to put up this strategy into practice. अपने लिए वो iteration 1, 2 और 3 में कितना time लग रहा है, and I think iQuanta mocks इसमें बहुत ज़्यादा help करते हैं in a way that now they launched iCat this year, which we did not have essentially, right? So iCat में you essentially get time that you spent on every question in the form of a dashboard format, right? And it actually tells you your mistakes, whatever mistakes you made, and how you can improve that. So you should utilize all those things to your personal capability and for your personal benefit. I think वो सारी चीजें, those things give you an edge as compared to other participants that are there in the examination. And I think these are the things that will actually bring you forward, push your percentile by that 10-15%, and get you an edge right there, right? So those are the things which are very, very important. Now, talking about having just 17 days and how to go till the final D-day, how many mocks to give and how to manage time between mocks. So Akshat can also pick up something if he feels like, but what I feel is that in the last 18 days, if you have given like enough mocks, 15, 20 mocks by now, don't give a lot of mocks, right? Essentially try to just give 2 mocks maximum every single week, maximum, right? And I mean 1 mock a week or essentially 4 mocks till your exam will also do the job for you. But if you feel you've given sufficient amount of mocks and analyze them properly, do not spend a lot of time giving mocks. Just practice, just brush up your concepts, just see whatever mistakes you've made in the past and just improve on them, right? Do not put a lot of emphasis on solving a lot of mocks because you've already given them, and I don't think it is marginally gonna improve a lot of things for you. Saying that, you have to essentially solve 4 or 5 mocks also, but you don't have to put up a lot of time. Then comes people who have given mocks, but then not a lot of them. I would suggest to give, let's say 2 mocks every single week and then analyze them properly. I think 2 mocks every single day, week, or in 1 week you can give 3 mocks as well and analyze it properly. I think that's gonna give you a edge. And I mean, when we come to analysis, I think again ICAT does half of the analysis work for you, right? So I was working and I had this big pain about, not being able to get a lot of time to do the analysis part of it. But then I think using the dashboard, using the time that you spend on each question, what are the questions that you frequently make mistakes upon, all this data, when it is given to you by a particular organization like iQuanta, and I think it helps you a lot, and it's a very huge value of money aspect out of it, right? So you should actually use it properly. Then third type of people are the people like me. Okay, so I started my this thing in October last year. So I did have my preparation sorted because of my JE and my background, and then I did prepare for 2 months in CAT 20 for CAT 2020 as well. So I did have a fair bit of idea, but then I had to give a lot of mocks, right? So when I actually started in October till November 5th, I had just given like 7 mocks. Okay. And then I knew the fact that if I don't give a lot of mocks, my CAT D-Day is gone for a toss, right? So what I did was in the next 15, 16 days, I essentially gave almost 1 mock every single day or alternate day at least. So till my day of examination, I gave 7 to 8 mocks, minimum 8 to 9 mocks, and I analyzed them very, very properly, right? So if you're someone who still feels that you've not given a lot of mocks, try pushing yourself a bit, not overburdening yourself, but try pushing yourself a bit by, solving a minimum of 3 mocks every single week, because that will actually give you that edge that you're looking for. That will actually give you that familiarity, right? One thing that CAT, D-Day, and mock have a similarity upon is the examination and the mentality, right? In the mock, if you develop that mentality, if you face failure sometimes in one of these sections and then you come back again in other section, if you see that twice or thrice, even if it happens in CAT, you will be able to figure things out because you have done it in the past, right? But if you have not done it in the form of mocks, if you're struggling in the final D-Day, you will not be able to cope up because you have not done it in the past, right? Secondly, the thing that is very, very different is the stakes aspect of it. In mocks, you have this thing in mind that, even if I not do good in this mock, it's still fine. But in CAT, you do not have this thing. So to develop this thing, you give mocks and then give a lot of time to develop and analyze that mentality aspect of it. And I think if you do that, you will be able to do fairly good at it if you practice enough, put a lot of time. It's not ki mock de diya, analyze kar liya naam ke liye and it's done. You have to essentially put a lot of time in doing that as well, right? So that is something which I feel. And honestly, there will be some people who would be looking for, giving the exam next year as well. Not everyone is giving the exam this year. A lot of people are preparing for the exam next year as well. So for people like them, for you also, time management is very, very crucial because क्या होता है कि we sometimes feel that we have 13 months for the final exam and we have a lot of time to do, we have a lot of time to go forward and lot less things to do as comparatively. But then doesn't happen, buddy. I mean, till June, July, you'll not be doing anything, just thinking like this. And then essentially you'll realize that, oh my God, now I don't have a lot of time to do. So what I would suggest you to do is, essentially get involved with a particular coaching institute, probably iQuanta, get their coaching for CAT 2024, because that essentially gives you that discipline. Okay, what it
I,
does is,
I'll cite an actual case. Like my
yeah,
younger brother, he is right now in the second year. He'll be eligible to give the exam next year. Like, I mean, he has filled the form for this year's CAT as well. But to be eligible to join a college, he'll be giving next year's CAT. And I have told him that this year's target for him should be 95 percentile if he actually wants to score a 99 next year. So that should be the approach for the students who are preparing for next year. If you're preparing for next year, prepare as if you want a 95 percentile this year. You have 20 days and you have to get a 95 percentile. Prepare in such a way. Only then will you be able to score a 98, 99 next year. Because to push from 95 to 99, that takes a huge effort. Pushing from 90 to 95 is fairly not that difficult, but as you move up the percentiles, the competition becomes more intense. Like you must have seen that even for the toppers, like last year, I believe the topper had some 132 something marks, the number one rank, and the number second, he had some 120. So the difference in the marks was huge. Right. And one more
correct.
thing, for those of you who are giving CAT this year and you have not touched some topics, for example, say you don't know PNC, then I would suggest not to start any new topic now. Don't just brush up your basics, your strong points, your weak points, work on them, give them some time, but do not start anything totally new. I mean, if, for example, you don't know PNC, just know what is NC2 and just know what is NCR and what is NPR. That is enough for you right now because that might be useful in some DILR sets as well to find out the total number of cases. For example, there are four teams and it is given that every team plays with each other. So how will you calculate that? You will have to know that it is 4C2, right? So just do that amount of basic in every topic which you have missed. Otherwise, don't deep dive into any new topic now. And example, we have the numbers topic. Numbers is a huge topic. There are a lot of classes in iQuanta as well of numbers. That is actually to build up your basics for the further topics that will come in arithmetic, in algebra. But if you are someone who doesn't know anything about numbers right now, I would suggest do not give a lot of time to numbers. Just finish it in a day because hardly one question comes from numbers topic directly.
Correct. I mean, do not, so for that matter, I think if till now you don't have the comfort of that particular topic, that is because you struggle with that topic, right? You have been procrastinating in that topic because then you feel that you're not good at it. So if you're not good at it till 8th of November, I think you'll not be good at it till the 26th of November as well. And, if you try to do that, you'll struggle a lot in other aspects which are, fairly moderate and not very good and not very bad for you. So essentially, as Akshat said, just, so what happens is sometimes they put absolute sitters in the examination, right? They just ask you something which needs application of just NCR, right? Or they can just ask you the sum of infinite GP, right? Now, even if you're someone who totally struggles with series and progression, finding a sum of an infinite GP is the easiest thing, right? You just need to know the basic formula. So have that level of comfort with every topic, at least that's out there. Even if you're not doing very, very good in any particular topic, that's still fine, that's still okay. But you should essentially have that comfort in every topic that you're coming with, right? So that is something which I also agree with him on, right? And then essentially I think we have a lot of questions piled up as well, so we'll have a look at some of them and then we
So
can
guys,
find a
you can put down your questions in the chat box. We'll answer them now for the next 10-15 minutes.
yes.
So
No,
Aman, I think the first question is for you. Hello, Aman. Will you share your RC selection strategy for CAT?
fine, fine. So yes, I think I'll start from yes here. Right. So answer this question first. So okay. So my RC select who asked this? What's that?
This has been asked by ad admin.
Admin. All right, admin. So I'll 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 answer this question for you. So my RC selection strategy was fairly different from what people tell. So somehow people tell, that if you're comfortable in a particular topic and if RC comes up from that particular topic, you should go with that. Now my strategy with that was somewhat different, right? Now what I feel is even if I love finance a lot, if someone gives me a Wall Street Journal which is written by some PhD student and stuff like that, I will absolutely struggle with that, right? I love finance, meaning I have a hobby of reading about finance, not that I'm very, very excruciatingly good at it, right? So, one thing that you need to have it as a myth that just because you like some topic doesn't mean you have to start reading that RC right away, right? There are three things that you should essentially look at. First is the linguistic difficulty of that particular RC. So, when you start going through an RC, read the first three lines and the last three lines of the RC, right? And see how difficult are they in your head. If are you able to comprehend those six lines at least? If you are able to, the linguistic difficulty is fairly manageable, right? Secondly, is the difficulty of the questions that are coming. Are those fact-based questions? Are those inference-based questions? Or are the mix of fact and inference-based questions? So essentially, even if the linguistic difficulty is tough, but there are a lot of fact-based questions in that particular RC, I think you should pick that RC first because you essentially have to just match the column. You have to see the question and find that particular sentence in the RC, and then you can have the options that you essentially are looking for, right? Third, then again comes up to the fact is their comfort. Now, if linguistically and question wise both of the things are same, then you look at the comfort that, if sets are the same and given an option about, between psychology and finance, I would typically pick finance because I would be more comfortable with the terms that are going to be there than psychology, right? So these are the three things that you can essentially look at. The more you solve RCs, the more the better you get at the selection strategy, I think, and that is something which is not one size fits all, but depending what your comfort on RCs are. So try to practice a more on strategizing this aspect, and then I think you can get better at it, right? Moving on to
Priya
so
has
I'll
a
start with
question.
Neha. Okay.
Question. I am barely able to solve 10 questions in QA, but my accuracy is above 80%. How do I strategize my practice in these 17 days to increase my attempt rate while maintaining accuracy?
All right. So your accuracy is fantastic, first of all. Okay. 85% accuracy is very good in QA. I mean, if you're able to, now what you essentially need to push is just the number of questions that you're solving, right? Now, first of all, find the root cause. Why are you just able to solve the 10 questions? Why are you not able to push it till the 15 question mark, right? Let's say. Now, there can be two, three issues. First is, you spending a lot of time in questions and not moving ahead. So essentially, you're not able to reach till the last of the paper, right? So as mentioned previously in the last session as well, that sometimes what they do is they put up the easiest questions towards the very, very last, right? So essentially, you should first have an habit of skipping questions and moving till the last of the question paper very, very quickly, so that essentially you have all the easy questions solved, right? Now, if you're able to solve 10 questions, I'm assuming every quant paper has at least 8 to 10 easy questions, right? And I think if you're able to do it with the 80% accuracy, with a fair bit of strategizing, with a fair bit of time management, you can solve minimum of 13, 14 questions. And 13, 14 questions having an accuracy of 18% easily, 80% easily gets you a 98, 99 percentile in quants, right? So you just have to strategize quite a bit. You don't have to, spend a lot of time in solving and improving your concept aspect, I think, because you cannot do. So yes, you can do this thing that let's say you don't know number system and you just leave the question of number system. If you see that even if it's very, very easy, find out if you do that and skip doing that. Don't do that ever. If the question is an absolute sitter, if you're able to do that, you should particularly do that and solve that, is what I feel. So do these two, three things, and I think you should be good to go and get your score and go on to the desirable level.
Ashtu Priya is asking in quant, few questions we know that we will get an answer, but we also know it takes time. What to do in that case?
All right. So in that case, you bucket that question properly. That is it a R1 question, R2 question, or an R3 question? Even if it takes time, that's totally fine. Now, if that question takes time, you make sure that you don't solve in that first or that second iteration, right? In that first iteration, you are typically looking forward to solving only those questions which are easy and which are going to be solved quickly, right? Because those questions are essentially those which build up your confidence. Now, if you spend a lot of time, let's say 5 minutes in solving one question in the first iteration itself, what is going to happen is there'll be 25 minutes already done, and you have just gone through the first iteration, right? So for that, the only solution is to bucket it properly. If it's fine, like you can do it, that's totally fine, but find out the time that you're going to take to solve that question. If you can do it quickly, do it in first iteration. Otherwise, mark it up for later, and then you can pick it up for later if you want to, and then you can solve it, right?
Bharat has a doubt. As I had said that in a DLR set, you need not answer all the questions. Just answer the ones that you think will take less time. See, what I meant by that is you have to make find a balance. If suppose you have 10 minutes left and out in a set which you have done three questions and you are left with two questions which you think are difficult. So instead of spending 10 minutes investing those 10 minutes in solving those two questions, what you can do is solve a whole new set. In those 10 minutes, you can solve a set which is fairly easy and you can solve four questions in that time. So it is about finding the right balance, choosing what will maximize your score. Because easy question, difficult question, each question will give you the same number of marks, right? So that is what I meant. And there also, when I'm going out through all this, there are a lot of tricks that are coming up my head, and I think we should not include those in this session. Let's keep that for a separate session in which Aman and I will tell you about some tricks that we use to maximize our marks, even when we did not know the right answers. For example, I remember when I got 99% in CAT, there was a set in which I think the last 2 minutes were left and I hadn't touched a DLR set at all. But I knew for one thing that all were Theta questions and the range of answers would be from 0 to 5 only. There was like, I mean, the Theta was like how many teams or how many players. So I knew that in the question was given that either it will be 0 teams or the maximum 5 teams. So I used some smart guesses and I got two questions correct. So those are some tricks that we'll share with you in some later session. Let's stick to the questions now.
Yep.
हमारी
Yep.
स्नेहा is asking 15 मिनट में कैसे होंगे 8-10 क्वेश्चन हो जाएंगे सिंपल वाले हो जाते हैं 1 मिनट से कम वाले काफी क्वेश्चन रहते हैं माई
यार
स्लॉट
मतलब ऑल्सो अपने हिसाब से वो चीज थोड़ा सा कैलिब्रेट कर लेना, सो टेक इट विद अ पिंच ऑफ सॉल्ट ऑल्सो। अगर तुम्हारा क्वांट्स बहुत ही खराब है, राइट, जैसे अब फॉर मी एंड अक्षत, वी फील दैट वी हैव दैट बेसिक लेवल ऑफ प्रिपरेशन, राइट। हमें लगता है कि 10 क्वेश्चंस यार 15 मिनट्स में अगर हमसे नहीं हो रहे, देन देर इज सम प्रॉब्लम। या तो एलओडी बहुत ज्यादा टफ है या हमने स्ट्रेटेजाइज ढंग से नहीं किया, राइट। बट इवन इफ 10 आप मत भी मानो, 8 क्वेश्चंस तो यार मिनिमम R1 में होने चाहिए, ठीक है। इवन फॉर द वीक स्टूडेंट्स, क्योंकि अगर आप 8 क्वेश्चंस R1 में नहीं करोगे, नेक्स्ट 25 मिनट्स आप 8 से ज्यादा एक्सपेक्ट कर नहीं सकते। तो ये अज्यूम करो कि जितने R1 में होंगे ना, उतने ही R2 और R3 में मिला के होंगे, उससे ज्यादा नहीं हो पाते, बिकॉज R1 इज द इजीएस्ट। So if you're not looking forward to solving 7, 8 minimum questions in R1, you're essentially telling that I'm not going to be solving more than 14, 15 in the entire paper, which is also maximum. क्योंकि अगर R2, R3 और भी ज्यादा टफ हो गया तो वो 14, 15 भी नहीं होगा। R1 में essentially ट्राई करना कि मैक्सिमम निकाल लो, यू ब्रिंग आउट लाइक मिनिमम लेट्स से 7 to 8 questions at least, if not 10. 10 is a desirable figure, right? So if you're even moderately good with quants, I think you should target 10 to 11 questions in R1. Yeah.
next my slot is 3 so how to manage stress on D-Day and what to do till 3 p.m. सो
Hmm.
आशीष इफ यू आर लकी इनफ कि तुम्हारा सेंटर इतना दूर नहीं है कि तुम्हें 3 तो वहां पे पहुंचते पहुंचते ही लग जाए अगर बगल में भी सेंटर है तो क्या कर सकते हैं यार देखो मैं तो ऑनेस्टली ग्रुप्स चेक नहीं कर रहा था कि क्या हो रहा है क्या बच्चे बाहर आके बोल रहे हैं दो स्लॉट के जितना ज्यादा बीटी लोगे उतना ज्यादा बीटी होगा एग्जाम में बस मुझे ये पता था कि लास्ट ईयर जैसे फिल इन द ब्लैंक्स का नया आया था तो बस ये पता चल गया था मुझे कि ठीक है नई चीज एक आई है कि फिल इन द ब्लैंक्स आए हैं और 22-22 क्वेश्चन है 22-22-22 नहीं 22-20-22 ऐसा कुछ था तो बस इतना नॉलेज लिया था क्या क्वेश्चन आ रहा है किस टाइप का आ रहा है तो ये एंटिसिपेट करना कि अच्छा मेरे में भी ऐसी सेम लॉजिक का क्वेश्चन आ जाएगा तो मैं वो रिवाइज कर लूँ इतना बीटी मतलब सिर्फ अपना पुराना जो है रिवाइज कर लो रिवाइज मत करो मूवी देखो चिल करो कुछ मत करो ठीक है
एकदम आराम करो यार, मतलब डी डे पे तो ऑनेस्टली तो मेरा, तो सबके लिए बता देते हैं, माई वाइन वॉज एट 8:30, ठीक है। So for 8:30 people, if your session is if your like center is very far, पिछले दिन चुपचाप चले जाना, ठीक है? डू नॉट, लॉट ऑफ पीपल डिड दिस मिस्टेक कि वो 4:30 बजे सुबह निकले फॉर द सेंटर एंड दे वर टोटली एग्जॉस्टेड टिल दे रीच द सेंटर। मत करना वैसे, ठीक है? बिकॉज एंड आई हैव सीन अ लॉट ऑफ देम नॉट डूइंग गुड इन कैट एज वेल, क्योंकि यार योर माइंड इज एग्जॉस्टेड टिल द फाइनल एग्जाम एंड यू डू नॉट वांट दैट टू हैपन, राइट? तो वो चीज मत करना। गो टू द center beforehand previous day if your center is far away, get acquainted with the place, find out where the center is, और अगले दिन फ्रेश माइंड से वो पेपर देने जाना। ऑल्सो याद रखो कि नॉर्मलाइजेशन होता है कैट में, तो नॉट अगर कुछ पैटर्न चेंज हो गया और तुम्हारे साथ अगर बहुत फ्रेश हुआ है, राइट, एंड यू वुड फील कि ये तो हमारा खराब हो गया, नहीं होता वैसा, नॉर्मलाइज हो जाएगा, तो यू विल नॉट बी एट एनी डिसएडवांटेज। ऑल द थ्री सेट्स, कोई भी सेट मोर और लेस, कोई भी सेट के लोग मोर और लेस, देर नेवर एट अ डिसएडवांटेज, देर ऑलवेज एट अ फेयर स्केल ऑफ मैचिंग विद एवरी अदर सेट, राइट? और आफ्टरनून सेट वाले लोग, यार तुम लोग बीच में अटक जाओगे, तुम्हें थोड़ी इन्फॉर्मेशन पता भी चल जाएगी और तुम लास्ट के लिए वेट भी नहीं करोगे, बट दैट्स अ गुड पार्ट कि तुम्हें इन्फॉर्मेशन पता भी चल जाएगी और एंजाइटी भी रात तक शाम तक होगी नहीं। बट वही चीज है कि बहुत ज्यादा इन्फॉर्मेशन मॉन्गरिंग मत करना, कि ऐसा ना हो कि बटोरने में लग गए कि यार जैसे ही फर्स्ट सेट वाले निकल गए पीछे ही पड़ गए, बिकॉज फिर उन्होंने बोल दिया कि अगर पेपर टफ आ गया तो वहीं तुम्हारा आधा गेम ओवर है। You'll just be very scared before you get in the paper, and you actually do not want that to happen, right? So don't get a lot of information, just get an idea of the pattern, right? So just just so that, I'm sorry, just so that you have an idea of how you want to proceed with things, and then go ahead with a fresh mind, right? And for 4:30 people, or what, whenever the evening slot this time is, just have a clear head, just chill around with your family, just talk to them, tell them what you feel like, go with a very clear head, understand the pattern, but do not pay a lot of heed to how the level of difficulty is। एक आइडिया ले लो, जस्ट सो दैट तुम्हें पता चलता रहे। जैसे हमारे टाइम DILR आई थिंक कंसिस्टेंटली टफ आया था, तो सेट 3 तक लोगों को एक आइडिया लग गया था कि परेशान नहीं होना है अगर क्वेश्चंस उतने नहीं भी हो रहे तो, राइट? बट वही है कि उसमें बहुत ज्यादा वो मत हो जाना, ठीक है? सो दिस इज अबाउट ऑल द 3 स्लॉट्स।
Rajat is asking, sir, how to choose the correct answer when stuck with two options in RC? यार रजत, ये काफी ओपन एंडेड सा, काफी
यार
ला
ये इसको ना आंसर
जाते हैं।
रजत किया था हमने, पिछला वाला जो लाइव सेशन लिया था ना, उसमें ये सारे, सो वन ऑफ द पर्सन आस्क अबाउट मॉक एनालिसिस कैसे करते हैं और मॉक एनालिसिस क्या होता है। तो पिछले लाइव वीडियो में जिसमें मैंने और जीत ने वो सेशन लिया था, तो वो एक बार देख लेना अच्छे से, उसमें explained है कि एनालिसिस कैसे करते हैं, दो ऑप्शंस में फंस गए तो कैसे करते हैं DILR में। उसमें सेक्शन वाइज स्ट्रैटेजी भी तीनों का दिया है, प्रॉपरली एक्सप्लेन। तो वो एक बार देख लेना, वो आइडिया लग जाएगा। आई क्वांटा के यूट्यूब चैनल पे तुम्हें वीडियो मिल जाएगा वो।
प्रशांत पूछ रहा है, माय प्रॉब्लम इन QA इज आई फील आई कैन सॉल्व द क्वेश्चन बट व्हेन आई स्टार्ट सॉल्विंग इट आई एम अनएबल टू गेट द आंसर एंड एंड अप वेस्टिंग अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम। इसमें क्वेश्चन क्या है, ये तो बता रहे हो? क्वेश्चन
यार
क्या है?
मतलब अगर तुम्हें पता है कि ऐसा होता है तो मत करो, राइट? यू नो कि अगर क्वेश्चन जज करने में डिफिकल्टी हो रही है तो थोड़ा सा सॉल्विंग कर करके वो हैबिट डेवलप करनी पड़ेगी, राइट? आई डोंट थिंक इसमें हम कुछ
आई थिंक
ज्यादा गाइड
90
कर
ऑफ द
सकते हैं।
क्वेश्चंस 90% ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस का सॉल्यूशन ये है कि प्रैक्टिस करो, प्रैक्टिस मिसिंग है। जब तक प्रैक्टिस नहीं होगी कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं आएगा, कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं आएगा तो ऐसे ही होगा।
क्वांट
तो
में यही है यार, बिल्कुल नहीं, मतलब अगर तुम्हें नहीं आता ना कंसेप्ट तो नहीं कर पाओगे। ऑनेस्टली ये बात समझनी पड़ेगी कि जितना कंसेप्ट में फेमिलियरिटी आएगी उतना ही फटाफट क्वेश्चन होगा, राइट? मतलब इनिशियली आई स्ट्रगल्ड विद लेट्स से सीक्वेंस एंड सीरीज, थोड़ा सा पैटर्न समझने में, बट बहुत प्रैक्टिस किया तो ऐसा 30 सेकंड में क्वेश्चन होने लग जाते हैं। तो वो थोड़ा सा एक
व्हाट्स द मिनिमम क्वेश्चंस वी शुड अटेम्प्ट इन क्वांट्स फॉर 95 प्लस परसेंटाइल? तो क्या ये वाले जो क्वेश्चन होते हैं ना कि मिनिमम कितने करोगे, मैं बता भी दूंगा तो क्या तुम करके उतने ही आओगे फिर? कि हाँ, अक्षत ने बोला था कि 12 क्वेश्चन करने थे तो मैं 12 ही करूंगा, उससे एक कम एक ज्यादा नहीं करूंगा, है ना? तो ये वाली चीज है ना यार, देखो हमेशा मैक्सिमाइज ही करो। परसेंटाइल भी ये मत सोचो कि मुझे इतने मार्क्स लाने हैं तभी परसेंटाइल बनेगा, अपना मैक्सिमम
हाँ
दो।
यार, ये
कि
95
यार हर
कौन सा
किसी को
होली
कुछ
ग्रेल
होता
है?
है। जैसे अमन का 99.69 आया तो कैट में, ठीक है। अब इससे अफसोस है कि यार मैं थोड़ा सा एक नेगेटिव नहीं करता तो मुझे IIM कैलकाटा का कॉल आ जाता, ठीक है। अब मुझे अफसोस है कि यार मैं थोड़ा एक दो क्वेश्चन और कर लेता तो मुझे इसका, हाँ, मुझे भी IIM कैलकाटा का कॉल आ जाता। अब कैलकाटा वाले को ये अफसोस है कि मैं कुछ कर लेता तो मुझे अहमदाबाद बैंगलोर का आ जाता। तो यार देखो, एंड में अफसोस सबको ही हो जाता है। अहमदाबाद वाले को भी हो जाता है कि मैं थोड़ा और कर, जी मैट में अच्छा नहीं आता तो मैं बाहर चला जाता। तो एंड ऑफ द डे सबको रिग्रेट होता है, तो मेक श्योर कि तुम्हें थोड़ा कम रिग्रेट हो, इसलिए अपना बेस्ट दो।
और यार कोई होली फिगर मत फिक्स करो यार अपने लिए कि मैं तो भगवान आपके दर्शन कर लूंगा अगर मैं 95 आ गए। बहुत से ऐसे लोगों को मैं जानता हूँ मॉक्स में 93 94 से आगे नहीं बढ़ पाते थे, 99 पे बैठे हुए हैं कैट में एक्चुअली। वो दिन चलना है यार, और तुम अगर सोच के रखोगे कि 95 भी लाने हैं मेरे को तो देन you'll never be able to stretch yourself to that particular level that you're looking at, right? तो मत फिगर आउट करो कि कितना किसके लिए चाहिए। यार हमने बोल दिया और पेपर टफ आ गया तो तुम हमें ही गाली दे दोगे कि यार अक्षत भाई तो बोल के गए थे कि 14 क्वेश्चन करने और मेरे से तो 8 ही हुए हैं, अब मेरे को क्या मर जाना चाहिए? यार इट डजंट वर्क दैट वे, राइट? आराम से लेवल ऑफ डिफिकल्टी एनालाइज करो, जितने हो रहे हैं मैक्सिमम करो, बाकी छोड़ दो ऊपर वाले को।
अर्जुन पूछ रहे हैं इन बीआरसी काफी बार ऐसा होता है कि दो ऑप्शन में रह जाते हैं, तो क्या मार्क करना चाहिए? मेरे हिसाब से मैं होता तो मैं तो कर देता हूँ यार, क्योंकि पॉजिटिव्स ज्यादा हैं थोड़े नेगेटिव से, है ना? नेगेटिव
दो
होगा तो।
ऑप्शन में आ गए तो प्रोबेबिलिटी वैसे ही तुम्हारे साइड हो गई है फिर, ठीक है। और इसका भी तुम्हें अगर डिटेल्ड वो समझना है कि मैं कैसे करता था दो में से एक पे, तो वो भी लास्ट वीडियो में तुम्हें मिल जाएगा। तो वो अच्छे से हम इसमें ज्यादा इसलिए नहीं बता पा रहे जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ द टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट, बट तुम वो आराम से जाके देख लोगे तो यूल फिगर आउट कि कैसे होता है।
दृष्टि पूछ रही है कैन वी एक्सपेक्ट कॉन्स टू बी इजी टू मॉडरेट इन स्लॉट वन?
यार ये तो
ये
मतलब,
टाइम टाइम लखनऊ वाले
मैं
लोग भी
फोन
बता
लगा
पाएंगे।
लूं एक सेकेंड, आई एम लखनऊ में ना, कॉल वगैरह लगा के मैं पूछ लेता हूँ कि कैसा यार। वो तो ऑनेस्टली कैसे पता हो सकता है, राइट? आई मीन ये तो किसी को ही नहीं पता होता। आई मीन ऑलवेज प्रिपेयर फॉर द वर्स्ट कि यार कितना भी टफ से टफ आ सकता है पेपर, बट तुम्हारे में कंपोजर होना चाहिए। इजी आ गया तो स्लैक मत करो, राइट? ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि इजी पेपर आ गया तो मैंने 14 कर लिए तो ओ माय गॉड नाउ आई एम टू गुड एट इट। तो मैं अगर मेरा बताऊं, एडवांस जेई एडवांस में बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन करके आया था और बहुत ही खुश था कि अब तो मेरी ऑल इंडिया रैंक 1000 के अंदर आ जाएगी। 5000 आई थी फिर लास्ट में, ठीक है। तो वही बात है कि इजी आएगा ना पेपर तो भी तुम्हें वो कॉम्प्लेसेंसी नहीं अपने अंदर लेके आनी है। वो चीज तुम्हें रखना है कि यार पेपर इजी है तो सबके लिए इजी है, तो मेरे को ज्यादा सॉल्व करना है, और पेपर टफ है तो सबके लिए टफ है, तो डरना नहीं है मेरे को, राइट? तो इजी आए टफ आए फर्क नहीं पड़ना चाहिए। दैट इज फॉर ऑल ऑफ देम, दैट्स द ब्यूटी ऑफ कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशन।
शाश्वत, हाउ टू मैनेज टाइम इन एलआरडीआई एंड हाउ टू सिलेक्ट सेट्स इन एग्जाम, लाइक आई एम टेकिंग अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम इन सॉल्विंग एलआरडीआई सेट्स। तो शाश्वत यार, देखो सबसे अपना प्रायोरिटी पे तो ये रखो फोकस कि एक सेट चुनना है और उस सेट को पूरा सही कर देना है। क्योंकि अभी जैसे तुम बता रहे हो कि यू आर टेकिंग टाइम इन सॉल्विंग अ लॉट ऑफ एलआरडीआई सेट्स, तो फर्स्ट तो यही करना कि, और यूजुअली क्या होता है कि डीआई सेट्स इजी होते हैं, डीआई में ज्यादा दिमाग नहीं लगाना होता, बन जाते हैं। लास्ट 2 3 ईयर से तो ऐसे ही हो रहा है। तो डीआई सेट उठा के पहले उसे खत्म कर दो, थोड़ा कॉन्फिडेंस आएगा, फिर बाकी एलआर में जाओ। ठीक है। नाउ भरत इज आस्किंग, एज यू सेड देयर इज नो नीड, अच्छा ये तो हो गया। और क्या क्वेश्चन है? Sankalp, best things to do in these last days as we have so much to do. We have QA 250 series, LRDA 70, mock analysis, classes and revision. What should be best according to you to maximize? Yeah, देखो QA 250 तो सारे कर लो। ढाई, एज द नेम सेज 250 क्वेश्चन है। तो मुझे लगता है तुम एक दिन में भी कर सकते हो। अभी तो मतलब इस लेवल पे होंगे कि 2 मिनट अगर एक क्वेश्चन में लग रहे हैं, तो 1 घंटे में तुम्हारे 30 क्वेश्चन हो गए। 8 घंटे की सिटिंग दी, एक दिन में सारे क्वेश्चन कर लिए, है ना? इतना भी मतलब एक दिन में भी कर सकते हो। तो क्यू 250 तो सारे करना ही। अभी मतलब थोड़े एडॉक बेसिस पे पोस्ट होते हैं, रोज कुछ कुछ होते हैं, 3 4 तो सारे कर लिया करो। LRDA 70 सेट्स होते हैं, आई थिंक 1 महीने से पोस्ट हो रहे हैं। तो रोज अगर एक दो भी करते हो तो हो जाएगा। मतलब ये दोनों तो करनी है, जो इनिशिएटिव्स हो रहे हैं वो सारे करो। काफी अच्छे लेवल के हैं और आते भी हैं ऐसे क्वेश्चंस ना। मॉक्स एंड एनालिसिस, यार देखो अभी ना मेरे हिसाब से एनालिसिस का टाइम इतना है नहीं अब तुम्हारे पास कि अब बैठ के एनालाइज करो, 2 3 घंटे लगाओ कि हाँ मैंने यहाँ पे गलती करी। अभी जो जिसने जितना कर लिया उतना कर लिया। अब बस प्रैक्टिस की बात है कि अपने आप को मॉक देने की उस फेज में डालो कि हाँ मुझे एक्चुअल एग्जाम में दूंगा तो मेरा माइंडसेट कैसा रहेगा, स्ट्रैटेजी कैसे करना है, एनालाइज कैसे करना है। ज्यादा अभी फायदा नहीं देगा अगर तुम अभी 15 दिन बाद एग्जाम दे रहे हो। ठीक है, तो उसमें बहुत ज्यादा टाइम मत लगाना भी एनालिस एनालाइज करने में। कौन सा इसमें वीकेस्ट सेक्शन, स्पेसिफिकली एल्जेब्रा। तो देखो एल्जेब्रा अभी जस्ट तुम्हारा खत्म हुआ है शायद क्लास में, अगर तुम कोर्स में हो। तुम्हारा भी मैराथन होगा, वो करो। QA 250 करो, PYQs कर लो, उसकी क्लास भी हुई है तुम्हारी बैच की क्लासेस में। नाउ हाउ शुड आई प्रैक्टिस कॉन्स इन द रिमेनिंग टाइम सो आई कैन सॉल्व most questions in under 2 minutes. Should I use a clock or something else? I have done all topics in quants.
यार क्लॉक तो मतलब यूज करोगे तो ठीक रहेगा, ठीक है, डोंट ओवर यूज इट, मतलब ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि हर क्वेश्चन में क्लॉक ला के बैठ गए, क्योंकि फिर क्या है, कुछ क्वेश्चंस तुम्हें कॉन्सेप्चुअली भी तो स्ट्रॉन्ग करने हैं, राइट? तो हर क्वेश्चन में वो क्लॉक वाला प्रेशर मत रखो, बट फॉर टॉपिक्स दैट यू आर वेरी वेरी कंफर्टेबल विद एटलीस्ट, उनमें वो क्लॉक रख सकते हो। फॉर टॉपिक्स दैट यू आर नॉट वेरी कंफर्टेबल विद, क्लॉक चलो उनमें भी रख लो, बट टाइम फिर 2 मिनट वाला मत रखना, ठीक है? essentially if you're trying to looking at solving every question in 2 minutes, वो तो नहीं होगा। तुम ऐसा हिसाब लगा के देखो ना यार, इफ यू सॉल्व 2 minutes every question in 2 minutes, तो डी डे तक तो यूल सॉल्व 20 क्वेश्चंस मिनिमम इन क्वांट्स, राइट? एंड इफ यू आर डूइंग इट, आई डोंट थिंक यू शुड इवन बी ट्रबल्ड अबाउट दैट। तो 2 मिनट का ऐसा कुछ एक हार्ड एंड फास्ट टारगेट मत लगा के रखो, अपना तुम्हारा टाइम गेज करो, अभी कितना लग रहा है, ट्राई मिनिमाइजिंग दैट एवरी सिंगल डे। अगर अभी 3.5 मिनट लग रहे हैं, ट्राई ब्रिंगिंग दैट डाउन टू 3 मिनट 10 सेकेंड्स, 2 मिनट 50 सेकेंड्स, एंड ऐसे कंजिक्यूटिवली कम करते जाओ। एक हार्ड एंड फास्ट नंबर तो यार कहीं भी, इवन परसेंटाइल में यहाँ पे कहीं भी रखने का अच्छा चीज नहीं है। अपना लेवल जज करो, उसके हिसाब से टारगेट सेट करो एंड उसको इम्प्रूव करते रहो एवरी सिंगल डे।
Should we read all sets of LRDI before selecting particular set? ये तो रीड ही नहीं करना होता, एक नजर फिराना होता है
हम्म।
कि पता चल जाए कि हाँ,
हम्म।
ये क्वेश्चन क्यूब का है, ये राउंड रॉबिन टूर्नामेंट्स का है, ये कॉइन टॉसिंग का है। बस इतना आइडिया लग जाए कि हाँ, किस टॉपिक से आ रहा है क्वेश्चन।
इसीलिए उसको स्किम थ्रू बोलते हैं यार। रीड मतलब रीड करोगे ना तो 5-6 मिनट तो तुम्हारे वहीं चले जाएंगे। रीड नहीं करना है, टॉपिक देखना है, डेटा देखना है कितना है, और बस ऑर्डरिंग एक सेलेक्ट कर लेनी है, बस दैट्स इट।
वैल्यूएबल एडवाइस फॉर कैट 2024 एस्पिरेंट्स। पर मेरे हिसाब से तो जितने मॉक्स दे सकते हो मॉक्स दो, और एक थोड़े डिसिप्लिन बना के रखो। और अगर किसी कोचिंग में ज्वाइन नहीं किया है, सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस है इतना, 100% है, तो ही रखो, वरना आई वुड सजेस्ट कि कोई कोचिंग ज्वाइन कर लो। क्योंकि क्या पढ़ना है ये ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट होता है, और वो एक प्रॉपर कोचिंग ही तुम्हें बता पाएगी। आई क्वांटा के अभी आई थिंक 2 ईयर कोर्स भी है, 1 ईयर कोर्स भी चालू है, तो वो भी कर सकते हो। एनमैट स्नैप का यार तुषार बाद में शेयर करेंगे। सर व्हाट लेवल ऑफ क्वांट कैन बी एक्सपेक्ट इन स्लॉट वन? फिर से छोड़ो, क्वेश्चन ये है।
I think most of the time people say slot one is tougher than other two slots. Is it correct? No यार अखिल, कुछ नहीं होता ऐसा। कोई भी स्लॉट टफ इजी आ सकता है, ऑल्सो वो नॉर्मलाइज होगा, तो बिल्कुल टेंशन मत लो इस बात की। ठीक है।
97 98 परसेंटाइल इनफ टू गेट अ कॉल। रिजल्ट आ गए क्या कैट के?
यार और ये तो ना पता है स्कैम होता है इतना कि ये इनफ फॉर अ कॉल, वो इनफ फॉर अ कॉल। मेरी तो भाई 99.69 आ गई तो भी नहीं आई ना सारी कॉल्स, ठीक है? तो वो नहीं पता तुम्हें क्या किस पे, तुम्हारी बहुत सब्जेक्टिव है ये, प्रोफाइल पे डिपेंड करता है, तुम्हारा क्या बैकग्राउंड रहा है, कितना वर्क एक्स है, हर चीज के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है, कौन सा कॉलेज है, हर कॉलेज का क्राइटेरिया अलग अलग है। तो अभी के लिए तो वो सोचो ही मत, मैं बता रहा हूँ कैट हो जाएगा, उसके बाद यही सब करते रहना बैठ के पूरे दिन कि क्या कितने पे कॉल आएगी, कॉल प्रेडिक्टर्स भी आउट हो जाते हैं, तब ये चीज देख लेना, अभी के लिए वो चीज के बारे में मत सोचो बिल्कुल भी।
आरसी एक्यूरेसी हैज डिप टू 50% नाउ। यार आरसी में देखो, 8 तुम्हारी वीए के क्वेश्चन रहते हैं। अगर तुम्हारा वीए स्ट्रांग होल्ड है, जैसे मेरा पर्टिकुलरली वीए में मुझे ज्यादा कंफर्टेबल था मैं, और कॉन्फिडेंट था, तो मैं पहले 8 वीए के क्वेश्चंस कर लेता था, उसके बाद मैं आरसी करता था। और आरसी में भी 2 आरसी में एकदम अच्छे से पढ़ के करूंगा, बाकी 2 को मैं थोड़ा स्किम थ्रू करके थोड़ा बहुत अपना बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि हाँ ये ऑप्शन तो हो ही नहीं सकता, ऐसे करके कर देता था। अब तुम्हें यार देखो, एक्यूरेसी आरसी में, हाँ, दिस इज द मोस्ट अनप्रेडिक्टेबल सेक्शन रहता है कि पता नहीं रहता है सही कर रहा हूँ नहीं कर रहा। तो प्रैक्टिस से ही होता है यार। अमन, एनी
हाँ
इनपुट?
यार वही है, मतलब मैं तो यही बोलूंगा कि यार पता है कई बार होता भी क्या है कि यू इन द परस्यूट ऑफ ब्रिंगिंग अप दैट एक्यूरेसी इतना ओवर सॉल्व भी कर लेते हो दैट फिर वो ये उन्हें लग जाता है कि बस धड़ाधड़ करे जा रहे हो, नॉट बीइंग अंडरस्टूड ऑफ कि क्या एक्चुअली करना चाहिए क्या नहीं भी करना चाहिए। तो थोड़ा सा यार ओवर बर्डन भी मत कर लो खुद को, ठीक है। ये एक बहुत बड़ी इशू होती है कि तुम्हारी एक्यूरेसी ओवर द लास्ट मंथ इसलिए डिप भी कर जाती है कि यू गेट इनटू अ स्प्री ऑफ सॉल्विंग एंड सॉल्विंग एंड सॉल्विंग, राइट। थोड़ा सा समझो खुद को कि यार सॉल्व जो कर रहे हो उसका आउटपुट क्या निकल रहा है। और ये स्ट्रैटेजी जैसे अक्षत ने बताया बनाना तो बहुत ही जरूरी है, एंड इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू स्टिक टू दैट स्ट्रैटेजी, ठीक है। तो उस पर स्टिक करके रखो, उसको यूज करो, समझो कि उसमें क्या कमी है, एंड देन इम्प्रूव ऑन दैट। और एक्यूरेसी देखो 50% तो बहुत ही कम है। आई विल नॉट शुगर कोट इट इन अ वे, तो उसे इम्प्रूव करो। टाइम लगाओ, अभी जो तुम्हारे पास 10 दिन 15 दिन जितने भी दिन है उसको टाइम लगा के इम्प्रूव करो। दिक्कत निकालो क्या दिक्कत हुई और उसको इम्प्रूव करो, वो हो जाएगा इम्प्रूव, दैट्स टोटली नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम।
Vallabh is asking how to prepare for decision making in that exam. उसके यार कैट हो जाने दो, फिर आराम से जैट की तैयारी करेंगे। जैट
करेक्ट।
अपने हो जाता है, 1 महीने में हो जाता है तुम्हारी। अगर कैट की तैयारी अच्छी है तो जैट में तुम्हें बस डिसीजन मेकिंग का अलग चीज रहती है। और वो भी डिसीजन मेकिंग पे ऐसा है कि इट इज समथिंग विच यू कैनॉट डेवलप अलॉट। मतलब तुम्हारी जैसी बेसिक थिंकिंग है उसे तुम ग्राउंड लेवल से चेंज नहीं कर सकते। थोड़े बहुत चेंजेस ला सकते हो, बट इट एट द एंड इट इज अबाउट द पर्सन यू आर, द वे यू सी थिंग्स, राइट। तो देयर इज नॉट मच दैट यू कैन डू, बट प्रैक्टिस तो करनी पड़ेगी। कैसे एग्जैक्ट एग्जामिनर क्या स्ट्रैटेजी क्या सोचता है, वो चीज हम सीख लेंगे 1 महीने में कैट के बाद।
करेक्ट हो जाएगा, जैट की बिल्कुल टेंशन मत लो यार, वो करवा दी जाएगी बिल्कुल।
पीवाईक्यूज और मॉक्स काफी है फॉर रेस्ट डेज टू स्टे रिलैक्स्ड एंड काम। हाँ यार, पीवाईक्यूज कर लो। पीवाईक्यूज में थोड़ा कॉन्फिडेंस आ जाता है, अच्छे मार्क्स आ जाए ना तो।
हाँ वो बहुत जरूरी है यार, वो कॉन्फिडेंस होना चाहिए, पता है। और पीवाईक्यू, यार द थिंग इज पीवाईक्यू विल एक्चुअली बी द मोस्ट क्लोज टू द एक्चुअल कैट, मतलब है ना। तो वो तुम्हें एक आइडिया देता रहेगा कि यार तुम कहाँ पे हो ऑन द लेवल ऑफ डिफिकल्टी साइड ऑफ द एक्चुअल एग्जाम, राइट। तो वो थोड़ा सा उस पे फोकस करके उसको टाइम देके पीवाईक्यूज तो सॉल्व कर ही देना है। ओके, या जूनो भी पार्टिसिपेट करना चाह रहा है, ठीक है। तो आई थिंक मोस्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस तो हमने ले लिए हैं, ठीक है। सम क्वेश्चंस which are here and there, I think those questions you can
Rizim is asking when we should start giving mocks. Sir, please answer. तो Rizim, I believe that तुम नेक्स्ट ईयर दोगी दोगी कैट। तो यार देखो, नेक्स्ट ईयर जैसे ही मॉक सीजन चालू हो अप्रैल मई में, तब ले लेना। तब ऐसा रहता है कि महीने में एक बार देना रहता है, महीने में 2 बार मैक्स। और चाहो तो अभी भी ले सकते हो कोई, अगर तुम्हारी प्रिपरेशन हो चुकी है।
yes,
What used to be your scores in mocks? What should be a good score in mock at this point of time overall? Is it
no
good if
good
you
score.
attempt all 4 RCs? It is good, very good if you attempt all 4 RCs, but they should be correct. I have 2 years of work ex and planning to resign to be able to prepare for CAT since in my current data engineering is such even on weekends I have to be working. Would gap matter in such a situation for the calls?
यार मतलब जॉब छोड़ो तो मत, ऑनेस्टली ऐसे एकदम ही। आई वुड से कि यार
पर अगर
थोड़ा
तुम्हें एकदम
अगर,
कॉन्फिडेंस है ना खुद पे कि एमबीए करना ही है, कि जॉब छोड़ना है एमबीए करना है, तुम्हारा विजन सही है कि क्यों करना है
हम्म,
एमबीए और करना ही करना है, भले ही मुझे थोड़ा सा कम का कॉलेज, अच्छा कॉलेज भी मिला,
हाँ
अच्छा
वो
एग्जाम
है
नहीं
तो
गया,
कर
करना
लो,
ही है
सही
एमबीए
बात है।
तो छोड़ सकते हो। और 1 साल का गैप मतलब इतना मैटर नहीं करता, 2 साल का वर्क एक्सपीरियंस इनफ है ना। उसके
हम्म।
बाद तुम थोड़ा सा साइड में अपना कोई एनजीओ ज्वाइन कर लिया, है ना, कुछ कोर्स कर लिया
हाँ
साथ में।
कुछ वो लगा लेना ताकि बस बोलने के लिए हो जाए कि हाँ ये तो मैं कर ही रहा था, राइट। कि वो गैप कवर हो जाता है ये सारी बातें करके, तो वो चिल है।
So does accuracy percent affect CAT scores? Definitely.
एब्सोल्युटली,
Chalo, I think
एब्सोल्युटली
this is the
शाश्वत।
last question, Aman. We can wrap up.
Yes, yes. And I think I think we did cover a lot of gamut of questions that you guys have ranging from different topics, right? थोड़े से क्वेश्चंस अगर तुम्हें सेक्शन वाइज रहेंगे, वो भी नो हमेशा रहते हैं। तो वो क्वेश्चंस के लिए आई थिंक जो पिछला यूट्यूब लाइव हम लोग गए थे उसमें काफी चीजें कॉम्प्रिहेंसिवली सेक्शन वाइज कवर की थी हमने। तो वो एक बार देख लेना, जस्ट हैव अ लुक थ्रू दैट, एंड आई थिंक अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स विल बी क्लियर आफ्टर वॉचिंग दैट एज वेल। And if you still have doubts around things, feel free to comment and then we'll, reply wherever we can and whenever we can. Right? So all the best, guys. And I hope you guys do really, really well in the final examination.